All right, today we're jumping into a really powerful teaching strategy. It's designed to support a part of our student population that's growing fast. We're talking about the push-in model. Let's get right into it.
To really wrap our heads around this, let's just try a little thought experiment. I want you to picture it. You've moved to a new country. You're trying to learn this tough new language that everybody else already speaks fluently. That feeling of being a little lost, a little overwhelmed, that's the day-to-day reality for so many English language learners, or ELLs, in our schools. And we're not talking about a small group here. The numbers are actually pretty staggering. By 2025, it's predicted that 1 out of every 4 students in the United States is going to be an English language learner. 1 in 4. That's a massive part of our entire education system. So this brings us to a really common and honestly often failing approach. It's what we call the sink or swim method. We just drop students into a mainstream classroom and hope they figure it out. And well, it's not a surprise that this usually doesn't work. It just leaves students feeling isolated and falling behind.
Okay, so if sink or swim is out, what's the alternative? How can schools actually give these students the support they need to, swim? Well, to answer that, we really need to look at the 2 main models that have popped up to tackle this challenge. So let's break these down. First, you've got the pull-out model. This is the classic approach you might be familiar with, where an English learner is taken out of their regular class for some separate language help. Then you've got the push-in model, which totally flips the script. The specialized support actually comes into the classroom, right to the student.
For the rest of this explainer, we're really going to zero in on the push-in model. And here's why. Its whole philosophy is about inclusion. The goal is to make sure English learners are getting the exact same grade-level material as all their friends, learning right there beside them in the same classroom. But you might be wondering, how in the world does a teacher do that? Support an English learner with really tough content in a classroom that's already busy? Well, the answer lies in this amazing teaching concept called scaffolding. And the metaphor here is just perfect. Think about scaffolds on a building, right? They help workers get to places they couldn't reach on their own. Instructional scaffolding does the same thing for students. It gives them temporary support to tackle work that's just a little too hard for them to do alone. And then, once they've got it, the scaffold comes down.
Now, this whole idea is built on something called the zone of proximal development. It sounds complicated, but it's not. Just think of it as the sweet spot for learning, that perfect space between what a student can already do and what's just out of their reach. Scaffolding is the bridge that helps them cross that gap.
Okay, so that's the big idea. But what does scaffolding actually look like day to day? Let's get really practical here and dive into 4 key strategies that bring the push-in model to life.
First up, we have modeling. So simple, but so effective. Instead of just telling students what to do, the teacher shows them. Think about it. It's the difference between reading a manual on how to bake a cake and having someone right there with you showing you each step.
One of the best ways to model is with something called a think aloud. This is where the teacher reads something and literally just says their thoughts out loud, like, I'm not sure what this word means. But wait, the rest of the sentence gives me a clue. It makes the invisible work of thinking totally visible to the student.
Strategy number 2 is all about being smart with your time. You don't have to stop a whole science lesson just to teach a little bit of grammar. Instead, you can weave these quick, focused 10-minute language lessons right into what you're already doing.
And the structure is pretty simple. First, you just explain the skill in a way that makes sense to kids. Then you show them a couple of examples. And finally, you give them a chance to try it out right away, usually with a partner. It's fast, it's targeted, and it works.
Now, strategy number 3. This one takes a real shift in how we think. It's all about seeing a student's home language not as a problem to be fixed, but as an incredible tool, a bridge that can connect what they already know to what they're learning in English. This could be as easy as letting a student use a translation app to look up a keyword, or maybe using a KWL chart, where students list what they can know, what they want to know, and what they learned. It's all about activating that knowledge they already have.
And our last strategy is a big one. You gotta get the kids talking. People learn language by using it, right? So English learners need lots of chances to talk through new ideas with their classmates in a setting that feels safe and low pressure.
A super simple turn and talk is a perfect example. The teacher asks a question, and instead of one kid raising their hand, everyone turns to a partner to discuss it. Just like that, every single student in the room gets a chance to speak, to practice, and to build up their confidence.
Okay, so we've got 4 fantastic strategies: modeling, those quick language blocks, using home languages, and getting students talking. But for any of this to really truly work, it all hinges on one absolutely essential ingredient.
And that secret ingredient is collaboration. I'm talking about real, meaningful, deep collaboration between the ESL specialist and the regular classroom teacher. This is the whole ballgame.
And look, this is way more than just 2 teachers sharing the same physical space. Real collaboration means having dedicated time to plan lessons together. It means having a shared vision for how students will grow. It means both teachers feel accountable, turning this from one person's job into a genuine team effort.
Because in the end, helping our English learners succeed isn't really about one teacher's toolbox of strategies. It's about building an entire school culture, a whole system of shared responsibility. And that really leaves us with a big, important question to think about. How can we build a school where every single student's success is truly everyone's responsibility?